I think we can get started. Welcome everyone to I'm not even sure what number workshop. I've lost count. But this is I guess a mega workshop in some sense. For the first hour, we are lucky enough to be joined by Jacob, who's going to be telling us about Raiden. And then after we've finished that session, we'll go into a session with Teller about their kind of challenges and how to use Teller. All the content for today's workshop and all of the content and all of the YouTube stuff videos will go up hopefully tonight, so you can absorb any content that you might miss. And in general, if you have questions during, please put them in chat. I will probably get to them towards the end because Zoom is actually quite bad for seeing questions when you're kind of running an event. But yeah, so what I will do now is hand over to Jacob from Raiden. We're delighted to have Raiden as a silver partner in the hackathon and have their scaling solution on in the hackathon. So Jacob, over to you. Great to have you, and take it away.
Thanks a lot, Anthony. Hi everyone. Let me just share my slides. I don't know, Anthony, for questions of you, as you mentioned, it's usually quite hard to keep track of with Zoom.
Well, I maybe
try to keep a track if you can.
Wait to the end, and we can take questions. And if I see anything huge, I'll flag. I'll shout.
All right. Yeah, because as far as I know, mics are not open for everyone, right? So
exactly. In general, I think mics are off, so just written ones.
Yeah, we also, of course, before I start, we're happy to receive questions in Discord as well. It's a bit easier to continue a conversation there. But yeah, all right. Thanks again, Anthony. I'm Jacob from the Raiden team, and I'll give you guys 45 minutes-ish workshop. And yeah, let's get started. So what will we be doing today? Quick and first and foremost, a quick introduction to Raiden, then a bit about how to set up Raiden to use it in during the hackathon, then a walkthrough of the API, followed by some any questions you guys might have, and yeah, then hopefully you guys will be set to start building with Raiden. So what is Raiden? Raiden is a payment channel network, and a payment channel network, funnily enough, is a big network made out of payment channels. And a payment channel is two nodes connected to each other that can do off-chain payments. So this means that usually in Ethereum, there's a big problem with scalability. There's a limit to the amount of transactions that can go through, and all transactions are public. So with a payment channel, you take this transaction of funds off chain. Yeah, that's pretty much what I said here. And Raiden can do this with any ERC20 token. So for what you guys will be doing in the hackathon, we offer a setup on the Garley tested, and there you can register and use any token you want. But on the mainnet at the moment, only DAI and wrapped Ether are available, but assume that in the future you can use whatever token you want also on the mainnet. So yeah, not involving the blockchain for every transfer helps avoiding the blockchain consensus bottleneck and makes transfers faster and cheaper. And as those of you who've been following, especially in the Ethereum space lately, you might all know that transaction fees are quite high, and a month ago they were extremely high. So this is also something you can avoid if you use something like Raiden, and also you don't have to wait 15 or 12 seconds for the next block. Your transfers are sub-second when using something like Raiden for payments. I will get into more detail later how we can how Raiden makes sense for some use cases. But for now, I'll just give a brief introduction to Raiden itself. So yeah, as I mentioned, Raiden is basically this off-chain solution, and a payment channel is always backed by an on-chain deposit of tokens. So we have a smart contract that keeps track of how much users have deposited, and then users are allowed to spend this off-chain. And when the lifetime of a channel is over, it will the smart contract is then able to, based on balance proofs, calculate who gets what out in the end. So this is like where the only point in time where Raiden interacts with the actual blockchain is during opening of these channels, depositing into the channels, and then closing and settling the channels. Everything that goes on in between is off-chain and is very fast and cheap. So yeah, how does it work in general? Like what goes on between these, the opening and the closing of channels? We do this by having balance proofs. So these balance proofs is basically like, could be, you can look at it a bit like a check. So Alice signs a check to Bob saying, I now owe you, I don't know, five tokens. And then Bob later on can say, I now owe you 10 tokens. So that's basically just some kind of IOUs that shows that Alice has signed a check saying, I will, with like Alice signs it with a private key saying basically that this can be interpreted by the smart contract to pay out in the end. So this is a proof that Alice owes whatever to Bob. So yeah, so far I've mainly explained how simple like payment channels work. So like just one between Alice and Bob. But what makes Raiden really powerful is the fact that if there is a network, so in this, like you can see this topography, it's a very simple topography, but basically Alice is connected to more than one other node. And this means that when there is a path, Alice can, in this case, send something all the way to India, like India here is the I, by mediating it through Bob and Doris. So this is where Raiden really becomes powerful, is that you have a network that nodes can use to pay anyone connected to the network. So yeah, where are we at right now with Raiden? Wait, sorry. That's a question.
Oh, there, I was just saying there was some people messaged me saying they had Zoom problems, so I was just flagging we're trying to fix whatever the problems are. So no questions, keep going.
All right. Yeah, but Anthony, if there are questions, don't hesitate to interrupt.
No problem.
So yeah, what is the current status of Raiden? We launched Alderaan in May on the mainnet, which is more or less fully fledged version of Raiden as we envision it. It includes what we call monitoring services and pathfinding services. So these are like third-party services that people can run. And the pathfinding service is a service that helps users find paths throughout the network, so that users don't have to run a full node all the time. And in the same way, the monitoring service offers users to monitor channels and close channels on their behalf if their counterparty closes a channel while they are offline. So this also helps with the fact that you don't have to be online all the time when using these services, which is going to be very convenient for having Raiden run on light clients and mobile phones, etc. So on to the more hands-on part, setting up Raiden. So here I provide two links, which, as Anthony said, they will be available after the workshop for everyone to open and to download the the wizard, I will not be doing something so hands-on right now that you guys need to follow along. But these two links is what you need to get started once you actually start building on Raiden. And how to start it, I also added in here. This is the command you need to run in your prompt in order to start Raiden. I should probably mention right now that it only at the moment works on Linux and Mac OS, and you probably need to use something like Docker or similar if you are on Windows, or just run a virtual machine. So yeah, what we do here is basically starting Raiden on Girly, and just with some necessary flags. The one here that probably is the most tricky to understand is the RPC endpoint. So of course that shouldn't be your .rpc.endpoint, but it could be a Girly Infura endpoint, or if you have another endpoint that you want to use. And the same goes for path to key store. That would be the path to some key store where you have a key stored for, like an Ethereum key. But if you use the Raiden wizard, which I had on the previous slide, then all of that will be taken care of for you, and you don't really have to do anything. All right, so what can we do with Raiden? I'll go through some of the API calls that we can do, but basically what you can do is you can query nodes, so you can see what is the status of your node. You can see the status of the channels you have open. You can see the channels for a specific token network. So that's, for instance, if you have deposited wrapped ether and you have deposited DAI, then you can specify that you only want to see one of the channels relevant for one token or the other. You can also query just a specific channel to see the status of one specific channel. You can see all registered tokens, and you can query all the partners that you have for a specific token. You can register a token. So this is probably going to be relevant if you're going to deploy your own ERC20 token and do some stuff with that. Open channels, of course. You can join a token network. This is something we are actually removing at the moment because it's super inefficient to do, but basically it's an automatic call that will open 3 channels for you. You can deposit to a channel, do payments, which is the main thing with Raiden. Then you can do partial withdrawals. That means that you don't have to close the channel completely to withdraw some of the funds you have in the channel. That can be very useful if you're receiving more tokens than you're spending. Then you can see all payment events. So if payments succeeded or failed, close channels, and leave token networks. And leaving token networks is also being removed together with joining a token network. So I wouldn't recommend using those. Here we have a typical channel object. So this shows that what a channel actually consists of. It has an identifier, so that's an identifier that is unique to the channel on the specific network. Then there's a token network identifier, the address of the partner of the channel. So that would be whoever you open the channel with. So let's say that we're Alice, and then the address of Bob from the previous graphics would be this 0x61C8. Then there's the address of the token, the balance, and the total deposit. So what's the difference between these two? The total deposit is how much we deposited into the channel, and the balance is our current balance. So in this case, it would basically mean that we transferred 10 with a lot of zeros after tokens to our counterparty. The channel state is open, so the channel is currently open. It could also be closed or settled. Then there's a settle timeout. This timeout is the period of time from when one of the participants calls close until the settle period is over. So this is 500 blocks, and then these 500 blocks basically allows the counterparty to send their latest received balance proof in these 500 blocks. And the review timeout is not so important to what you guys will be doing, but it's basically the time that it takes to review secrets. This is something that happens in case there are mediated transfers in flight where one of the nodes potentially becomes unresponsive. Then we do this on-chain secret review. To open a channel is quite simple. You just make a put request with the address of the partner you want to open the channel with, which token you want to use, along with the initial total deposit and the settlement timeout. And that would basically just return return an example response, which is a channel object like I just showed you before. You can also query all channels for your node by get to the API one channels endpoint, and that just returns a list of objects. In this case, we only have one open, but you can see that it's a list by the square brackets. So if we had more channels, there would be a list of channels popping up. You can query a specific channel. So if you know you want to see all channels for a specific token network, you specify the token address. And if you want to get a specific partner for a specific token address, you add the partner address to the endpoint. Depositing. So as I mentioned, you can deposit after a channel has been opened. You can deposit more, and you simply do that by patching the specific channel and adding a new total deposit. And then the total deposit it's not what you're adding, but it has to be higher than what you put in initially, if that makes sense. So if we put in 500 to start with, if we wanted to put in another 500, we would have to set total deposit to 1,000 and not 500. Yeah, that would just increase the total deposit. All right, the most important endpoint, I would say, is the payments endpoint. And it works very similar to depositing, basically, in that you have to specify the token address and the target address. And you simply just give the amount as a payload. And this is probably what most of you will be doing most of the time, hopefully, since that's where Raiden shines, is in doing fast payments. So this is all you need to do to make payments in your hacks that will be fast and way cheaper than on-chain payments. Of course, you need to open channels first, etc. And yeah, that just returns the payment that it was. Usually it also says payment successful. I don't know how or why I removed that in this slide, but you'll see that when you do payment yourselves. So that must be here. You can get all the payment events, and they look like this basically. Where you see payment received success or payment sent success. So those would be the two most common things you'll see here. It could also be that a payment failed if your counterparty is, or if the receiver is offline or something like that, then it would say the payment failed. All right, that was actually quite fast.
Awesome. Right, so people, for some reason, chat's not working, so people have been messaging me personally the questions, which is lovely. So I'm going to read them. First thing, what is the maximum kind of transaction size that you could possibly do using Raiden?
So I'm not entirely sure what is meant by transaction size. Assuming that it's like the maximum amount, then that would be the maximum. So that would be your capacity in the channel. So if you deposited 10 tokens to start with, then it would be 10 at that point in time. But if you add more, or if you receive more tokens from your counterparty, then that number goes up. If it's the amount of transactions that can throughput in the network, then that is hard to say because Raiden scales linearly. The more nodes that are online in the network, the more transactions per second all over the network. But one transaction is around 1 second at the moment per node. So if there's a thousand nodes in the network, then the transaction throughput would be around 1,000 per second.
Awesome. Next question, how easy is it to run a Raiden node? Would you recommend anyone in the hackathon doing so?
It's very easy. With this Raiden wizard link or Raiden wizard that we have, it's very easy to do it. It's like we built a script that basically takes care of everything for the user. And if you do it on Girly, we even font the node for you, so you don't have to do anything basically. I would definitely recommend doing it for the hackathon, and we will be around in the in Discord as well to help people out.
Awesome. Next question, you may have covered it already, but what are the fees? And yeah, what are the fees basically?
So the fees for like using Raiden is like, that's basically what you, of course, the gas fees that you pay for opening channels, like doing all the on-chain transactions. Then the fees for Raiden itself, if you do direct, so if you do payments just to a partner of yours, they're free. But we do have like very, very small fees on using the pathfinding service or the monitoring service if the monitoring service is needed. I cannot right now remember the exact number for pathfinding fees, but they're like very, very low. For doing payments itself, there are no fees unless you use the pathfinding service.
Okay, cool. Next question. So this is a popular one. What are the integrations with other layer 1 blockchains? Obviously, people are asking about 3 in particular here: Polkadot, Avalanche, although Avalanche has an Ethereum bridge, and Binance Smart Chain, which is EVM compatible. What are there integrations there? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's not something that we have actively done anything with. So we have not deployed Raiden on any of the other EVM compatible chains. There is probably I would assume that it's not too hard to do on an EVM compatible chain, but there could be some complications, of course, and definitely will be some adjustments to make. Yeah, that's probably there are currently no direct bridges or compatibility things that we've actively built.
Someone says, would you like to see that in the hackathon?
I think that would be pretty cool. I think it wouldn't be too much work, depending on the amount of unforeseen complications that there might be.
Yeah, awesome. And what sort of stuff in particular would you like to see built on Raiden?
Yes, so I actually have that one next up. Let me just continue a bit before we go to more questions. So here, docs.raiden.network, you can find a lot of stuff about Raiden, how it works, how to get running, and all the API stuff I had as well. And we also have a portal for developers, how to get started, etc. So recommend checking those out. Then for the prizes, which I promised to include, is like, what are the 2 challenges that we have for Raiden during the hackathon? So we have, first up is quite an easy and broad option. Is basically for any hack that builds something that utilize Raiden to do fast or scalable ES20 token transfers. We pay $200 worth of RDN for good quality submission. So this could be anything. It doesn't have to be something that really focus much more on Raiden other than using it to do payments, but it could be that it could be anything. It's just something that makes it easy for you guys to try out Raiden and make it a bit more attractive to try and include it in your hack. Then the second one is something that like more activates Raiden deposits. A little background on this. As you know, as I mentioned, there are deposits in Raiden, and these deposits are basically just sitting still in the deposit contract while a channel is open. So we thought it would be interesting to look a bit into how this deposits or these deposits could potentially be activated through some DeFi protocols while it's it's sitting there. So that could be a way of having something that generates yield or interests while they're locked in the protocol. So this could include some alterations to the Raiden smart contracts that would allow for this to happen, or a proxy layer, like a proxy contract in between that can take care of this before depositing into a token network. But like, so this is like the main price, but I would also say that we're willing to consider other hacks if they are like, for instance, if someone looked into porting Raiden to another chain like Polkadot or another EVM compatible chain, or build a super nice user interface for a wallet that integrates Raiden or something like that. Those kinds of prices will also, of course, be considered for a bigger price than just $200. I don't know if that answered the question.
Excellent. So there's definitely a DeFi slant, really, which is good, and in keeping with what's happening. Do you see any kind of natural? So obviously, I'm trying to think who the other partners are now. So we obviously have Teller, Oracle. I could see people doing something that used an Oracle and then used Raiden for payments. I could see maybe something with Beam if someone wants to do privacy. I'm just trying to think the integrations really. I think if someone wants to be very creative and try and do something with Binance Smart Chain and Raiden, that'd be, I think, extremely cool. I don't see why it'd be too technically hard, but you might need some help from the Binance Smart Chain guys. Okie doke. That's the kind of initial questions I've got, guys. Please keep following them through to me. Do you have anything else you want to share, Jacob?
No, I just had I put some time aside in case someone already had ideas or wanted to brainstorm, but maybe this is a bit hard since audio is.
I was going to say, I think this might be a tricky one. This might be one for the kind of catch up, maybe workshop in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, so if there's anything there, then please check out for now the Discord. There's a specific Raiden sponsor room in the Discord where I will be happy to discuss ideas, etc., or help out if you're already now trying out Raiden.
His question has come into me. How would one do private transactions, or do something in a kind of private way?
That's also a good idea. Good question. So in Raiden, by default, you get like pseudo privacy in that only the people involved in a transfer knows what is going on. So the entire world doesn't see what's going on like they do on the Ethereum blockchain in most cases. What we then would like to see, for instance, is also someone potentially implementing Raiden, like the Raiden contracts on a CK solution like Aztec or something that can provide even more privacy, so that you cannot even see who opens channels with who. So that's one opportunity. But I would say by default, the Raiden privacy is better than Ethereum by default, yeah, but it's not fully private.
Very good. Awesome. I guess one question from me. What you've obviously done quite a few hackathons over the years, ETH Berlin stuff, Gitcoin stuff recently. What have been your favorite hackathon projects that have been built on Raiden?
That's a good question. We've had
actually a hard question as well, because you gotta remember what they were as well.
We had one this summer in a hackathon that was really cool. Actually, we had two, but one of them is like I don't remember the name of the project, but it's a money streaming through Raiden. So the concept is that instead of waiting to the end of the month to get your salary, you get your salary streamed to you continuously throughout the month through Raiden. So you can basically spend your salary whenever, or some of your salary whenever you want it. I thought that was a really cool hack. Then we've had someone trying to build, that's almost 2 years ago now, or 1.5 years ago, someone trying to build a decentralized TikTok where they used Raiden to pay for watching TikToks, I think. So you pay a very small amount, like a micropayment to whenever you watch a video. And yeah, there was also something called I don't remember, but it was like a Wi-Fi sharing service. So you paid with Raiden microtransactions every 10 seconds or something, or every second for whatever, however many megabytes of internet you used. So Raiden is in general very, very good for micro transactions where you have very frequent transactions of small sizes because you don't pay fees for the transactions. I would not use Raiden if you only plan to do like a once per every 6 month big transfer of ETH or something. I would not use Raiden because there are fees like connected to opening the channel. So it has to be reoccurring or frequent payments before Raiden makes sense in that regard. But
yeah, this is
so very well. Yeah.
Two questions have come in. So the first question was, does it make sense to only use Raiden for kind of medium-term repeated transactions, or so is it not suitable for one-off events effectively, or
one-off events? Not really. It kind of depends on how you see it. So let's say in a very big network where everyone is using Raiden and everyone's connected, then you could potentially pay anyone else, right? It's kind of like you can pay everyone who's got an Ethereum address right now. But if you're building something specific for like a one-off event, it does not make sense to use Raiden because the fees connected with opening and closing Raiden channels is higher than what you pay for a one-time transfer. So it would not be economically efficient to use Raiden for one payment.
Fair. Questions come in. It's a brainstorm idea. I'm thinking about building a decentralized Patreon. How would you recommend I go about this? I'd quite like to stream payments linked to when content is produced, etc. How would you go about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good idea as well. One of the use cases that I see as powerful with Raiden is something like paywalls, etc. So modifying it a bit to not be just a paywall, but that you can pay to watch Patreon content. Something like that would make a lot of sense in my mind. That you say, all right, you have your Raiden account connected to Patreon or something similar to Patreon, and then when you when you want to see some content, instead of subscribing to one or two Patreons, then you could just pay them some amount to unlock the video instead. So that might be a nicer way to like have like be able to pay several content creators instead of just subscribing to one.
So there was another question here, which was, oh, where's it gone? Oh, I've lost it. That's impressive. Oh, okay, I don't know where it's gone. Let's see if I can find it. Any other kind of questions, guys, or anything else you want to say, Jacob? Oh, here it is. I found it. Thank God. It was how much emphasis should we put on UI and UX? Usually in crypto projects, this is the last thing that gets done. But I've been told in hackathons that it's something that really helps me stand out. Where should I put my emphasis?
That's also a good question, I think. So I think in general, if the tech is solid, so like if what you're hacking or building is of good quality, then we are not focusing too much on the UI, because as you said, that's something that you can do at a later point in time. But if you're very much into UI UX, then we would also love to see someone build a super cool UX on top of Raiden, since Raiden itself is a big like is a full protocol for doing payments. So you could build a beautiful, easy to use interface that allows you to just use Raiden for payments, for instance. So kind of like a wallet interface for Raiden. That would also be a great thing to build. So it depends on what you like to do and yeah, where your strengths are. But if you're building something like a decentralized Patreon or something, the UI UX is not the most important thing, but the most important thing is to show that the functionality of unlocking content by payments would be the important thing.
Nice. Next question. You mentioned discretionary prizes not on the hackathon challenges page. Could you tell us more about them? Are they grants?
Sorry, can you say the first?
I'll say it again. So it said you mentioned that there would be extra prizes potentially given out for the best projects. Can you tell us more about these? Are they grants?
Okay, no. So what I meant was, for instance, right now the big prize or the big challenge that I showed here was just a DeFi prize, but that potentially we would be willing to, if someone says they want to spend time building, I don't know, this decentralized Patreon or something similar to that, like a bigger project focusing on Raiden for this hackathon, that could be considered for the main prize or the main challenge as well. But we also do have a grants program that we would usually tell people about in the end or after the hackathon, that they can apply there if they are interested in continuing to work on their projects.
Okay, excellent. Okay, that seems to be everything. Guys, again, sorry for the Zoom issues. I don't really know what's happened. I think someone's changed the settings. But yeah, if you have other questions, just ping them to me and I'll read them out. Okay, any other things or questions, guys? People are still joining, which makes sense. Okie doke. Well, look, Jacob, thank you very much. But hackers, this is obviously still in the learning part of the hackathon. We kind of expect you to kind of, I think it's the week of the 14th of December. We expect you kind of to start hacking. You can start hacking before then, but in general, we know that this is kind of learning and time, and to soak in what we've done on the workshops, on the Medium, on the YouTube, and kind of get hacking in the second half. For those of you without teams, we are still working hard in that respect. I wanted to leave a few weeks just for organic kind of connection, but I might start proposing some teams together for those that are still looking for people to work with in the hackathon. Great. Jacob, anything else you want to add for now?
No, just that if people are like, yeah, any questions or anything, just find us in Discord. I'll be happy to support you guys and help you figure out what could be interesting or relevant to build.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you very much, Jacob. Thank you for your talk and answering the questions. And if you want to find Jacob, please go on to Discord. He will be there. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, and thank you all for listening.
Awesome.